He adopted a war-orphaned alien, now their enemies. Treat the child like a demigod. The climax erupts when Shade Collective zealots storm the planetary council, worshipping Lumi as a divine vessel. Desperate to protect everyone, the luminescent child unleashes their full power, creating a profound psychic connection that forces all present, enemies and allies alike, to experience each other's perspectives, forever transforming their understanding. The transfer station X-227 hung in the void, like a misshapen pearl, its white exterior pockmarked with docking ports and observation bubbles. Once a bustling trade hub, it now served as a reception center for war orphans from a dozen species, the living debris of the Earth Alliance's costly victory over the Centurion Empire on the barren world of Zephon. Earth Ambassador Marcus Hale stood rigid in the station's main atrium, his diplomatic uniform uncomfortably tight around his neck. The rhythmic click of his polished boots against the metal floor echoed as he paced. His usually impassive face betrayed the slightest hint of anxiety. This was not what he had trained for at the Diplomatic Academy. "Ambassador Hale," chimed the station's artificial intelligence in a tone programmed for false cheerfulness. "The xenobiology team is ready for you in quarantine section 12B. Marcus nodded curtly. "How many orphans are we processing today?" "Just one, sir. A rather special case." The hesitation in the AI's synthesized voice made Marcus pause. "Special how?" "I believe it's better if you see for yourself, sir. Dr. Alara Voss is waiting to brief you." As Marcus navigated the labyrinthine corridors of X-227, he rehearsed the standard diplomatic phrases of sympathy and reassurance. He had negotiated peace treaties, mediated interstellar trade disputes, and even faced down the Centurion High Command. But children, alien or otherwise, were outside his expertise. The quarantine section's sterile white walls were broken only by observation windows, revealing empty chambers. At the far end, a small crowd of medical staff huddled around one particular window, whispering among themselves. Dr. Alara Voss broke away from the group as Marcus approached. Her face was drawn with fatigue, but her eyes sparked with scientific curiosity. "Ambassador, thank you for coming personally." Her voice was clipped, professional. "We have a unique situation." Marcus arched an eyebrow. "So, I've been told. What species are we dealing with?" "Post-Centurion biomorph, approximately equivalent to a human child of 7 or 8 years. She gestured toward the observation window. "But with adaptations." Marcus stepped forward and peered through the transparent barrier. Inside the sparse quarantine chamber, a small figure huddled in the corner. Its skin pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, soft blues and purples that rippled in waves across its surface. Multiple tendrils, thin as human fingers but twice as long, curled protectively around its head, where a human child would have hair. This being had something like fiber optic filaments that glowed faintly at the tips. "What's its name?" Marcus asked. Dr. Voss consulted her datapad. "Unknown. The rescue team found it in the ruins of a Centurion research facility. No surviving adults, no identification records. We've been calling it Lumi due to the bioluminescence." The creature, Lumi, suddenly looked up, as if sensing their presence. Marcus found himself staring into enormous eyes that reflected light, like twin galaxies. There was fear there, and something else. Recognition. Dr. Voss cleared her throat. "Lumi hasn't communicated since arrival. Shows signs of severe trauma. Refuses food unless left alone, and reacts defensively to any approach." Marcus frowned. "Why am I here, Doctor? I'm a diplomat, not a xenopsychologist." Before Voss could answer, the door at the end of the corridor hissed open. A delegation of officials in the formal attire of the Planetary Council entered, led by High Counselor Thrain, a tall Arcturian whose gray skin contrasted sharply with the vibrant, ceremonial sash across his chest. "Ambassador Hale." Thrain's voice resonated deeply. "We've reviewed the case and reached a decision." Marcus straightened. "What decision, Counselor? I wasn't aware this was a matter for Council review." Thrain's four eyes blinked in sequence, an Arcturian expression of resolute determination. "The child cannot remain in station custody. Our facilities are not equipped for long-term care of its kind. More orphans arrive daily. Resources are stretched thin." "I understand, but the child will be placed in your custody, Ambassador Hale." The statement hit Marcus like a physical blow. "My custody. With all due respect, Counselor, I'm not qualified." "You negotiated the peace with the Centurion Empire. You know their biology, their culture, their psychology better than anyone in the Alliance." Thrain's tone left no room for debate. "More importantly, Earth has volunteered to lead the post-war humanitarian effort. It would send a powerful message if an Earth diplomat personally assumed responsibility for a Centurion orphan." Marcus felt the trap closing around him. This wasn't about the child at all. It was politics. A calculated move to ease the humanitarian crisis, while scoring diplomatic points. "I'm stationed on diplomatic vessels or outposts," Marcus argued. "My quarters aren't suitable for a child, especially one with special needs." "Arrangements have been made," Thrain replied smoothly. "You've been assigned permanent quarters here on X-227 until the child acclimates. Your diplomatic duties will continue, of course, but with certain accommodations." Marcus glanced back at Lumi, who was now watching the exchange with unnerving intensity. The tendrils around its head had stiffened, like antennae sensing danger. Does Lumi understand what's happening?" Dr. Voss hesitated. "We believe so. Centurion biomorphs have highly developed empathic abilities. It likely senses the emotional tension, even if it doesn't comprehend the words." Marcus took a deep breath. He was being maneuvered into a corner, but creating a diplomatic incident wouldn't help anyone, least of all the traumatized alien child. "Very well," he said finally. "I'll accept temporary guardianship while we locate suitable permanent arrangements." Thrain's mouth stretched into what passed for an Arcturian smile. "Excellent. The official transfer will take place immediately. Dr. Voss will provide all necessary medical information." As the council delegation departed, Marcus turned back to the observation window. Lumi had pressed closer to the glass. Its tendrils splayed in a pattern Marcus couldn't interpret. Fear? Curiosity? The luminescent patterns on its skin had accelerated, pulsing rapidly. "I need to prepare it for transfer," Dr. Voss said, reaching for the quarantine chamber controls. "Wait," Marcus said. "Let me speak to it first. If it's empathic, maybe it can sense my intentions." Dr. Voss nodded skeptically, but stepped aside. Marcus approached the glass and knelt down to eye level with the alien child. He felt ridiculous. He had no experience with children of any species, but he forced his voice to remain calm and gentle. "Hello, Lumi. My name is Marcus. I understand you've been through a terrible ordeal." He placed his palm against the glass. "I'm going to take care of you for a while. I promise I'll keep you safe." For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, Lumi approached the glass. One delicate tendril extended cautiously and pressed against the barrier, directly opposite Marcus's hand. The bioluminescent patterns calmed, settling into a steady, gentle pulse. "Remarkable," Dr. Voss whispered. "That's the first voluntary interaction it's initiated." Marcus felt a strange tightening in his chest. Relief, perhaps, or the weight of new responsibility. "Let's proceed with the transfer, Doctor, slowly." The moment the quarantine chamber door slid open, however, everything changed. A station security officer stepped forward, and Lumi's entire body flashed brilliant white with panic. The tendrils whipped violently, and a burst of energy, something between light and force, exploded outward. Alarms blared as equipment shorted out. The security officer was thrown backward, sliding across the floor. "Stand down!" Marcus shouted, as more security personnel rushed forward. "You're frightening it!" Dr. Voss was frantically working her controls. "Its bioenergy readings are off the charts. This isn't standard Centurion physiology." Amidst the chaos, Marcus made a decision, ignoring all protocols. He stepped into the quarantine chamber alone, hands raised in a universal gesture of peace. "Lumi," he said softly. "It's all right. No one will hurt you." The child's glow dimmed slightly, but the tendrils remained rigid with tension. A faint humming filled the air, like the vibration of crystalline structures. Marcus took another careful step forward. "I know you're scared. I would be too, in your place. But I give you my word as an Earth ambassador. I will protect you." Whether it was his words or his calm demeanor, something reached Lumi. The blinding light faded, and the humming ceased. The security team, watching through the doorway, relaxed their stance. Dr. Voss appeared beside Marcus, her expression a mixture of relief and scientific excitement. "Fascinating defensive mechanism. I've never seen anything like it in Centurion subjects." "Perhaps because it's a child," Marcus suggested, not taking his eyes off Lumi. "Fight or flight response." "Perhaps," Voss agreed, though her tone suggested otherwise. "We should move quickly while it's calm." As they prepared to escort Lumi to Marcus's newly assigned quarters, a message flashed on Dr. Voss's datapad. Her expression darkened as she read it. "Problem?" Marcus asked. "Possibly." She lowered her voice. "We've received an information request about Lumi from the Shade Collective." Marcus stiffened. The Shade Collective had been bitter enemies of the Centurion Empire long before Earth entered the conflict. Their shadowy organization had conducted guerrilla operations against Centurion outposts for decades, often with brutal efficiency. "How did they even know about Lumi?" "They have sources everywhere," Voss replied grimly. "They're classifying Lumi as a war remnant and invoking their right to information under the Treaty of Proxima." Marcus glanced at the child, who was watching them with those impossibly deep eyes. "Deny the request. Cite diplomatic privilege and minor protection statutes. They won't be satisfied with that answer." "They'll have to be." Marcus extended his hand toward Lumi. "Come, let's go to our new home." After a moment's hesitation, Lumi placed its small hand in his. The sensation was strange, warmer than human skin, with a subtle vibration that seemed to resonate through Marcus's bones. As they walked out of the quarantine section, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that his life had just changed irrevocably, and that somewhere in the shadows of interstellar politics, new enemies were already moving against them. Across the station, in a darkened communications bay, a hooded figure observed the surveillance feed of Marcus and Lumi. They activated an encrypted channel. "Confirmation," they whispered. "The Centurion experiment survived. Appears stable. Energy signatures unlike anything in our databases." A distorted voice responded. "Monitor closely. If it truly is what we suspect, the power could shift the balance across the quadrant. And if it's just a child, there are no just children in Centurion genetic programs. Watch. Wait. Report any manifestations." The figure ended the transmission, their eyes never leaving the image of the small, glowing child holding the hand of the Earth diplomat. The quarters assigned to Marcus and Lumi were spacious by station standards, a two-bedroom suite typically reserved for visiting dignitaries. The walls were a neutral beige, the furniture functional and austere. Nothing like a home, especially for a child. Marcus watched as Lumi cautiously explored the space. Tendrils extended to sense the environment. The bioluminescent patterns shifted constantly, sometimes bright, sometimes nearly fading to nothing. Dr. Voss had explained that these patterns might be a form of emotional expression. though they had yet to decipher the specific meanings. "Computer," Marcus addressed the station AI. "What resources are available regarding interplanetary adoption procedures?" "Accessing Galactic Registry of Family Law," the AI responded cheerfully. "For Earth Centra adoptions specifically, I have located the standard application forms. Would you like me to display them?" "Yes, please." A holographic document appeared in the center of the room, rotating slowly. It was covered in alien script, not just one language, but at least 5 different writing systems overlaid in a complex matrix. Marcus sighed. "Is there a version in standard?" "This is the standard version, Ambassador," the AI replied. "Interplanetary adoption forms must be comprehensible to all signatory species of the Galactic Concord." Marcus rubbed his temples. "How am I supposed to complete this?" "Most applicants hire a team of linguistic specialists and legal experts. The average completion time is 14 standard months." 14 months? That's... A soft chiming interrupted him. Lumi had approached the holographic document and was studying it intently. The tendrils around its head extended toward the floating text, not quite touching but seeming to sense something from it. Then, to Marcus's astonishment, Lumi raised a small hand and touched one section of the document. The alien script rearranged itself, symbols shifting into new configurations. "Remarkable," the AI commented. "The child appears to understand spatial language." "Spatial language?" "A form of communication used by certain spacefaring species. It relies on 4-dimensional positioning rather than linear syntax. Extremely difficult for humans to comprehend." Marcus watched in fascination as Lumi continued to manipulate the document, moving sections with delicate touches. The bioluminescent patterns on its skin had settled into a steady rhythm, suggesting concentration. "Is it filling out the form?" "Partially," the AI confirmed. "It seems to be inputting personal identifiers in the Centurion sections. Quite extraordinary for one so young." A rush of questions filled Marcus's mind. What exactly was this child? How could it understand such complex linguistic systems? The Centurions were known for their advanced biotechnology, but this level of cognitive ability in a child was unprecedented. Later that evening, after Lumi had finally settled into sleep in the smaller bedroom, Marcus contacted Dr. Voss via secure channel. "The child demonstrated unusual linguistic abilities today," he reported, keeping his voice low. "Manipulated adoption forms written in spatial language." Voss's holographic image flickered with interest. "That supports my theory. I've been analyzing the medical scans more thoroughly. Lumi's neural structure shows evidence of extensive augmentation, far beyond standard Centurion parameters." "What kind of augmentation?" "Hard to say precisely. The Centurions were secretive about their genetic programs. But based on what we're seeing, Lumi may have been part of an elite development initiative, possibly designed for specialized communication or intelligence work." Marcus glanced toward the closed door of Lumi's room. "A weapon?" "I wouldn't go that far yet," Voss cautioned. "But certainly something more than an ordinary child. I'd like to run more comprehensive scans." "Not yet," Marcus decided. "Lumi's been through enough trauma. Let's give it time to adjust before subjecting it to more tests." Voss frowned but nodded. "Very well, but be vigilant. Ambassador, document any unusual abilities or behaviors. We're in uncharted territory here." After ending the call, Marcus checked on Lumi once more. The child was curled in a tight ball on the bed, tendrils wrapped protectively around its body. The room was bathed in a soft blue glow, emanating from its skin, dimmer now in sleep, but still present. Something protective stirred in Marcus's chest as he watched the small, vulnerable being. "What happened to you?" he whispered. "And what am I supposed to do with you now?" The next morning, Marcus awoke to find Lumi sitting cross-legged on the floor of the main living area, surrounded by floating points of light. As Marcus watched, the lights shifted, forming intricate three-dimensional patterns that seemed to tell a story. Buildings rising and falling, ships moving through space, explosions blooming like deadly flowers. "Lumi," Marcus said softly. The child startled, and the light display vanished instantly. The tendrils around its head curled inward defensively. Marcus raised his hands in a peaceful gesture. "It's all right. That was beautiful. What was it?" Lumi stared at him silently, the bioluminescent patterns on its skin pulsing rapidly. "Were those memories?" Marcus ventured. Slowly. Lumi nodded, a human gesture it must have observed. Then, with evident concentration, it recreated a small portion of the light display. A Centuran research facility, recognizable by its distinctive architecture. Then flames, explosions, chaos. "That's where they found you," Marcus realized. "You're showing me what happened." Another nod, more confident this time. "Can you speak?" Marcus asked gently. "In any language?" Lumi's tendrils twisted in what might have been frustration. It pointed to its throat and shook its head. "You can't speak, or you choose not to?" In response, Lumi created another light pattern, a simplified diagram of what appeared to be a Centuran vocal structure, with certain elements missing or undeveloped. "I see," Marcus said, though he wasn't entirely sure he did. "But you understand me." An emphatic nod. "And you can communicate through these light projections?" Another nod, followed by a more complex display, a crude representation of a device of some kind. "You need something to help you communicate better?" Marcus guessed. Lumi's skin flashed bright with what Marcus was beginning to recognize as excitement or affirmation. The child pointed to Marcus's personal datapad on the nearby table. "You want to use my datapad?" Lumi nodded vigorously, somewhat hesitantly. Marcus retrieved the device and handed it to the child. "Be careful with that. It contains diplomatic—" Before he could finish, Lumi's tendrils extended to touch the datapad's surface. The screen flickered, then began rapidly cycling through programs and applications. Lines of code scrolled faster than Marcus could follow. Within minutes, Lumi had apparently reprogrammed the device, creating what appeared to be a custom interface. The child held up the datapad triumphantly. On the screen was a simple message in Standard. "Hello, Marcus. I am Lumi. Thank you for helping me." Marcus stared in astonishment. "You created a communication program? Just now?" Lumi typed quickly. "Yes. Easier than light patterns. Less energy." "That's impressive." Marcus sat down, trying to process this new development. "Lumi, what exactly happened at that research facility? Who were your parents?" The child's luminescence dimmed noticeably. After a long pause, it typed, "No parents. Made, not born. Others like me, but all gone now." "Made." Marcus felt a chill. "You mean you were created in a laboratory?" "Yes. Special project. Secret." Marcus chose his next words carefully. "What was the purpose of this project, Lumi? What were they creating you for?" Lumi's tendrils curled inward, and its skin pulsed with darker colors. The response came slowly. "Not sure. Communication with something far away. Like a translator? Maybe. Never finished training. War came. Explosions. Everyone died." The simple words conveyed such horror that Marcus felt his throat tighten. Whatever scientific or diplomatic significance this child might hold, right now, it was just a traumatized orphan. "I'm sorry, Lumi," he said softly. "You're safe now. I promise." The child looked up at him with those bottomless eyes, searching his face as if for confirmation of his sincerity. Then it typed one more message. "Will you be my father now?" The question caught Marcus completely off guard. His diplomatic training had prepared him for negotiating with hostile aliens, mediating interstellar disputes, even facing down the threat of war, but not for this. Not for the naked vulnerability in those simple words. He began, then stopped. What was the right answer? The diplomatic one or the human one? Before he could respond, the station AI chimed, "Ambassador Hale, you have an incoming priority communication from Earth Command." Marcus stood, grateful for the interruption. "I need to take this. Lumi, we'll talk more afterward." The child nodded, clutching the datapad to its chest. In his makeshift office area, Marcus activated the secure channel. Admiral Kazuo Takahashi, his direct superior at Earth Command, appeared on screen. The Admiral's expression was grave.
"Hale, what the hell is going on out there? I'm getting reports that you've adopted a Centurion War-Orphan."
"Not exactly adopted, sir," Marcus corrected. "Temporary guardianship while we—" "Do you realize what a political minefield you've stepped into? The Shade Collective is already filing formal protests with the Alliance Council. They're claiming the child is Centurion military property and should be turned over to Alliance scientists for study." Marcus felt a surge of protectiveness. Lumi is a child, not property, and certainly not a laboratory specimen. "Lumi," Takahashi raised an eyebrow. "You've named it now?" "The medical team named it," Marcus corrected, though he felt a strange reluctance to keep referring to Lumi as it. "Admiral, this child has remarkable abilities. Today alone, it reprogrammed my datapad to create a communication interface and demonstrated memory projection through light manipulation." Takahashi leaned forward. "What kind of abilities, exactly?" Marcus hesitated, suddenly wary of sharing too much. "We're still assessing. Dr. Voss is conducting ongoing evaluations." "I want full reports. Hale, daily. This situation could be either a diplomatic catastrophe or an unprecedented opportunity. If this child possesses valuable Centurion knowledge or technology—" "With all due respect, sir, Lumi is traumatized and needs stability, not exploitation." Takahashi's expression hardened. "Remember your position, Ambassador. Your primary duty is to Earth and the Alliance. If this Lumi proves to be strategically significant, personal attachments cannot interfere with proper procedure." After the Admiral signed off, Marcus remained at his desk, troubled by the conversation. He had always been a model diplomat, detached, professional, putting duty above personal considerations. But something about Lumi's situation was breaking through that carefully constructed facade. When he returned to the main room, he found Lumi working intently on the datapad. The child looked up as he entered, then held out the device. On the screen was a simple drawing, 2 stick figures, one tall, one small with tendrils, holding hands. Beneath it was written, "My answer?" Marcus looked from the drawing to the expectant face of the alien child. The professional, diplomatic part of him urged caution, detachment. The human part, a part he had suppressed through years of service, urged something else entirely. "Lumi," he said carefully, "I can't promise to be your father forever. There are many complications, many rules about such things. But I can promise to be your guardian for now, to protect you and help you heal." The child considered this, then typed, "Good start." Despite himself, Marcus smiled. "Yes, a good start." Over the next few weeks, a routine developed. Each morning, Marcus would receive diplomatic briefings and conduct remote negotiations, while Lumi underwent gentle medical evaluations with Dr. Voss. The afternoons were devoted to Lumi's education, a challenging task given the child's advanced abilities in some areas and complete ignorance in others. Marcus discovered that Lumi possessed an intuitive understanding of mathematics and spatial relationships that far exceeded human capabilities, yet knew nothing of history, literature, or social interaction. The child absorbed information at an astonishing rate, often mastering complex concepts after a single explanation. It's as if its brain was specifically designed for accelerated learning, Dr. Voss observed during one of their regular consultations. The neural pathways form and strengthen almost instantly, Has there been any progress identifying exactly what the Centurions were developing? Marcus asked. Voss shook her head. Most Centurion research databases were destroyed during the war. What little we recovered is heavily encrypted. But based on the physiological evidence, Lumi appears to be a highly specialized communication vessel. Vessel? You make it sound like a ship rather than a person. Voss looked uncomfortable. I mean, no disrespect, Ambassador. But we must be precise. Lumi's entire biology is engineered. From the bioluminescent skin, capable of complex light pattern generation, to the neural structures optimized for information processing. Even the tendrils appear designed to interface with technology, or possibly other life forms. Marcus frowned. Regardless of how Lumi was created, the child deserves to be treated with dignity. Of course, Voss agreed quickly. I'm merely suggesting that we must remain mindful of Lumi's unique nature as we proceed with integration efforts. That evening, as Marcus helped Lumi prepare for bed, he noticed the child seemed unusually subdued. The bioluminescent patterns were muted, and the tendrils hung limply around its head. Is something wrong? He asked. Lumi retrieved the datapad. Had test today. Dr. Voss connected me to machine. What kind of machine? Marcus felt a flicker of concern. Memory scanner. Saw inside my head. Asked about the signal. What signal? Lumi's skin darkened. Sometimes I hear it. Far away. Calling. A chill ran down Marcus's spine. You hear something calling to you? From where? Don't know. Space. Deep space. Been there always. Marcus made a mental note to discuss this with Voss immediately. Did the doctor upset you? Not doctor. Other people watching. Asking questions. Too many questions. Other people who? Lumi's tendrils twisted anxiously. Shadows. Hiding behind screens. Bad feelings from them. Marcus felt a surge of anger. Had Voss allowed others to observe Lumi's examination without his knowledge or consent? I'll speak with Dr. Voss. That won't happen again. Lumi looked up at him with those impossibly deep eyes. Don't be angry. Scared for you. For me? Why would you be scared for me? Shadows want me. Will hurt you to get me. The words sent another chill through Marcus. Was Lumi merely expressing trauma-induced anxiety? Or did the child sense a genuine threat? The Shade Collective had been suspiciously quiet lately, but that didn't mean they had abandoned their interest. No one will hurt either of us, Marcus assured the child, with more confidence than he felt. Now, get some rest. After Lumi had finally drifted to sleep, Marcus contacted station security and requested a review of all personnel present during Lumi's medical evaluations. He also sent a strongly worded message to Dr. Voss, demanding an explanation for the unauthorized observers. As he worked, he became aware of a subtle vibration in the air. Looking up, he saw that the entire suite was bathed in a soft purple glow. It was coming from Lumi's room. Marcus approached quietly and peered through the partially open door. Lumi was still asleep, but the child's entire body was illuminated with brilliant light that pulsed in complex patterns. The tendrils were fully extended, waving slowly as if caught in an invisible current. Most disturbing of all, Lumi was hovering several centimeters above the bed. As Marcus watched in astonishment, the light coalesced into distinct shapes, star patterns, planetary systems, galactic clusters. It was as if Lumi was projecting a map of some kind, but of regions Marcus didn't recognize from any standard astronomical chart. The display lasted perhaps a minute before fading. Lumi settled gently back onto the bed, the tendrils relaxing, the luminescence returning to its normal sleeping glow. Marcus retreated to his office, his mind racing. Whatever Lumi was, whatever the Centurions had been creating, it was far more significant than anyone had realized. And if the child was projecting unknown star maps while unconscious, what did that suggest about the signal it claimed to hear? He hesitated only briefly before sending an encrypted message directly to Admiral Takahashi, bypassing the normal diplomatic channels. "Need immediate security upgrade for Lumi," he wrote. "Situation more complex than initially assessed. Request full privacy protocols and restricted access to all medical data." The response came within minutes. "Explain." Marcus stared at the screen, weighing his words carefully. His diplomatic instincts urged caution, transparency with his superiors. But something deeper, that same protective instinct that had been growing since Lumi arrived, made him hesitate. Finally, he wrote, "Child demonstrating unusual astronomical knowledge, possible security implications, unauthorized observers during medical examination, suspect information leak." It wasn't the whole truth, but it wasn't a lie either, and it might buy them some time while he figured out exactly what was happening with Lumi, and who might be interested enough to risk observing the child without authorization. Takahashi's final response was terse. "Security detail en route. Full report expected upon arrival. Maintain complete isolation until then." Marcus closed the communication channel and returned to check on Lumi. The child slept peacefully now, no longer glowing or floating. Looking down at the small figure, Marcus felt the weight of his decisions. He had entered diplomatic service to help shape a peaceful future for humanity among the stars. Now he found himself protecting a single alien child who might hold the key to something far beyond his understanding. "What are you?" he whispered. "And what am I going to do with you?" The security detail arrived the following morning. A team of 4 grim-faced Earth Alliance officers led by Commander Iris Chen, a compact woman with sharp eyes and a reputation for thoroughness. Marcus greeted them in the corridor outside his quarters, deliberately closing the door behind him to shield Lumi from their scrutiny. "Ambassador Hale." Chen's salute was crisp. "We're here to establish enhanced security protocols for the Centurion subject." "The child's name is Lumi," Marcus corrected. "And I expect your team to remember that. Lumi has been through significant trauma and responds poorly to being treated as a specimen or security risk." Chen's expression remained neutral. "Understood, sir. However, Admiral Takahashi has classified this as a Priority 1 operation. The Lumi's safety is paramount, but so is the security of whatever information or abilities it may possess." "They," Marcus said, the word emerging before he had consciously decided to use it. "Lumi is a person, not an it." A flicker of surprise crossed Chen's face, but she nodded. "Of course, Ambassador. My apologies." Marcus led the team into his quarters, where Lumi was sitting cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by educational holographs depicting Earth's solar system. The child's tendrils extended toward the spinning planets, manipulating their orbits with delicate touches. When the security team entered, Lumi immediately withdrew the tendrils, and the holographs vanished. The bioluminescent patterns shifted to a rapid, anxious pulse. "It's all right," Marcus said gently. "These people are here to help protect us." Lumi studied the newcomers warily, then typed on the datapad, "Soldiers, like ones who attacked facility." "No," Marcus assured the child. "These are Earth Alliance officers. They're on our side." "Not all sides clear anymore," Lumi typed, with a wisdom that seemed far beyond a child's years. Commander Chen approached slowly, crouching down to meet Lumi at eye level. "Hello, Lumi. I'm Commander Chen. My team and I are going to make sure no one bothers you or Ambassador Hale." Lumi's tendrils twisted in what Marcus had come to recognize as skepticism. The child typed, "You want to know what I know." Chen glanced at Marcus, who gave a slight nod, encouraging honesty. "Yes," she admitted. "Admiral Takahashi believes you may possess information that could be important, but our primary mission is protection." Lumi considered this, then typed, "I will show Marcus. Only Marcus. He decides what to share." Now it was Marcus's turn to be surprised. The child was not only asserting autonomy, but also placing enormous trust in his judgment. The responsibility felt heavy. That seems reasonable, Chen agreed, standing. For now, we'll establish security perimeters and monitoring systems. Dr. Voss has been temporarily restricted from access, pending investigation of the unauthorized observers. After the security team had set up their equipment and positioned guards outside the quarters, Marcus sat down with Lumi. "You said you would show me something," he prompted gently. Lumi nodded, tendrils quivering with what might have been nervousness. The child typed, "Hard to explain with words. Need to connect."
Connect? How?
Lumi pointed to the tendrils around its head, then to Marcus's temple.
You want to connect with my mind?
Marcus felt a flutter of alarm. "Not mind, memories. Show you what I saw, what they made me for." Marcus hesitated. Such intimate contact with an alien consciousness was far beyond standard diplomatic protocols. Yet, if he refused, he might lose Lumi's trust, and the opportunity to understand what made the child so special. "Will it hurt?" he asked. Lumi's skin pulsed softly. "No hurt. Just pictures. Feelings." "All right," Marcus decided. "But if I ask you to stop, you stop immediately. Understood?" The child nodded solemnly, then moved closer. The tendrils extended slowly, hesitantly, toward Marcus's face. He forced himself to remain still as the delicate appendages made contact with his temples. At first, there was only a mild tingling sensation. Then, suddenly, his vision exploded with light and color. He was no longer in his quarters on Station X-227, but floating in deep space, surrounded by stars. Not just seeing them, feeling them. Their gravitational pulls, their electromagnetic signatures, their age and composition. Then the perspective shifted, and he was in a sterile laboratory. Centurion scientists moved around him, their faces blurred as if seen through tears. Pain. So much pain as they connected devices to Lumi's developing neural system. Training exercises. Endless repetition. Learning to reach out, to feel the distant signals, to translate the patterns into something the scientists could understand. And always, that distant calling. A beacon of some kind, buried deep in the galactic core. Ancient, patient, waiting. The connection broke abruptly, and Marcus found himself back in his quarters, gasping for breath. Lumi had withdrawn, tendrils curled tightly against its head, skin dimmed to an anxious gray.
My God, Marcus whispered. They were using you to communicate with something. Something not Centurion.
Lumi nodded, typing shakily. The Ancient Ones. Sleeping in darkness. Centurions found signal. Needed translator. Made me. But the war interrupted their research? Yes. Facility attacked. Scientists killed. I hid. Soldiers found me later. Marcus's diplomatic mind raced with the implications. If the Centurions had discovered evidence of another advanced civilization, possibly one that predated known spacefaring species, the strategic implications were enormous. No wonder the Shade Collective was interested. No wonder Earth Command wanted Lumi isolated and studied. But looking at the child's frightened face, Marcus found he couldn't think only in terms of strategy and advantage. Lumi was a person, a young, traumatized person who had been created for a single purpose and then abandoned. "Thank you for showing me," he said softly. "That was very brave." Lumi's tendrils relaxed slightly. "What happens now?" "Now, we keep you safe while we figure this out. I won't let anyone use you the way the Centurions tried to." The child's skin brightened with hope. "Promise." "I promise," Marcus said, surprised by his own certainty. "Now, let's continue your lessons about the solar system. I noticed you were adjusting the orbital mechanics earlier. Very impressive." As they returned to the educational holographs, Marcus was acutely aware of Commander Chen watching from the doorway, her expression thoughtful. He would have to report something to Admiral Takahashi soon. The question was, how much of Lumi's secret should he reveal, and what would be the consequences of that revelation? The next few days brought a new tension to life on Station X-227. Commander Chen's security team maintained a constant presence, vetting all visitors and monitoring all communications. Dr. Voss was eventually cleared to resume Lumi's medical evaluations, but under strict supervision and with limited equipment. The unauthorized observers appear to have been representatives from the Shade Collective. Chen informed Marcus privately. They bribed a junior medical technician for access to the observation feeds. The technician has been detained for questioning.
How did they even know about Lumi's abilities?
Marcus demanded. Chen's expression was grim. That's what concerns us. The level of detail in their information request suggests they knew exactly what to look for. Either they have access to Centurion research records we haven't discovered, or there's another leak, Marcus finished. Someone with intimate knowledge of Lumi's nature.
Precisely. Until we identify all potential security breaches, Admiral Takahashi recommends relocating Lumi to Earth for more comprehensive protection.
Marcus frowned. Earth is halfway across the sector. The journey alone would be traumatic for Lumi, not to mention the stress of a new environment. With respect, Ambassador, your quarters on a civilian station aren't exactly ideal for a child either. Earth has facilities specifically designed for special cases like this. Comfortable, secure, with access to the best medical and educational resources. It was a reasonable argument, yet Marcus felt a profound reluctance. I'll consider it, but the decision will depend on what's best for Lumi's well-being, not just security concerns. Later that day, as Marcus was reviewing diplomatic dispatches, the station's alert system suddenly blared to life. Red emergency lights pulsed throughout the quarters. Warning: hull breach detected in Section 14A. All personnel initiate emergency protocols. This is not a drill. Marcus immediately went to find Lumi. The child was in the small makeshift study area, tendrils extended in alarm. It's all right, Marcus assured, though he wasn't certain that was true. Just a station emergency. We'll stay here where it's safe. Lumi typed frantically. Not accident. Deliberate. Can feel intent. Before Marcus could respond, Commander Chen burst into the room, hand on her sidearm. Ambassador, we need to move you and Lumi to a secure location immediately. We have reports of unauthorized personnel in adjacent sections. The hull breach was intentional?
Appears so. A diversion. Security is responding, but
a thunderous explosion rocked the station, throwing them all to the floor. Emergency barriers slammed into place as the station's damage control systems activated.
They're targeting this section specifically,
Chen shouted over the alarms.
We need to evacuate now.
Marcus helped Lumi to their feet. The child's skin was pulsing with bright patterns of distress, tendrils whipping in agitation. Stay close to me, Marcus instructed, gripping Lumi's small hand tightly. Chen led them through a maintenance access corridor, away from the main hallways where fighting could already be heard. Two of her security team followed, weapons drawn, while the other two had presumably engaged the attackers. Commander to control, Chen spoke into her communicator. Request immediate extraction, proceeding to Docking Bay 7 with primary assets. Only static answered her.
Communications are being jammed, she muttered.
Not good. They emerged into a cargo processing area, temporarily deserted as station personnel responded to the emergency. Chen motioned them toward a bank of lifts that would take them to the docking levels. Once we reach the bay, there's an Earth Alliance shuttle on standby. We'll get you both off station until the situation is contained. As they approached the lifts, a section of wall panels suddenly slid aside, revealing a hidden passage. 5 figures in matte black armor emerged, weapons raised.
Earth Alliance personnel, stand down,
Chen shouted, positioning herself between the newcomers and Marcus. This is a diplomatic protection detail. We have no quarrel with Earth, responded the lead figure, voice distorted through a tactical helmet. Surrender the Centurion asset, and no one need be harmed. Marcus pulled Lumi behind him protectively. The child is under my diplomatic protection. Any attempt to seize them will constitute an act of war against Earth. The armored figure tilted its head. Bold words, Ambassador. But we both know Earth will not go to war over one Centurion experiment, no matter how valuable. Shade Collective. Chen spat the words like a curse. You have no authority here. Authority? The figure made a sound like laughter. We have pursued the secrets of the Centurion Empire for generations. Their biological weapons, their communication technology, all of it rightfully belongs to those who suffered under their expansion. This child is the key to powers you cannot comprehend. Lumi's grip on Marcus's hand tightened painfully. He could feel the child trembling. Last chance, the Shade operative warned. Surrender the asset, or we take it by force. Chen's response was immediate. She fired her weapon at the lead figure while shouting to her team. Defensive position! Protect the ambassador! Chaos erupted in the cargo bay. Energy weapons discharged. Crates exploded into shrapnel, and automated cargo drones scattered in panic. Marcus pulled Lumi toward the nearest cover, a stack of reinforced shipping containers. Stay down, he ordered the child, though Lumi seemed paralyzed with fear. Skin flickering between bright alarm patterns and dull gray shock. The exchange of fire intensified. One of Chen's security officers went down, clutching a wounded leg. Chen herself was pinned behind a loading mechanism, unable to reach them. Ambassador, she shouted. Get Lumi to the lift. We'll hold them off. Marcus assessed the distance to the lift bank. Perhaps 20 meters of exposed floor. Too far to run without becoming targets. We need a distraction, he muttered, searching desperately for options. Suddenly, Lumi's tendrils extended fully, vibrating with tension. The child's entire body began to glow with increasing intensity. Lumi, no! Marcus tried to intervene, but it was too late. A pulse of pure energy erupted from the child, expanding outward in a dome of brilliant light. Where it touched the Shade operatives, their weapons short-circuited, helmets sparked, and tactical systems failed. The attackers staggered, momentarily blinded and disoriented. Chen seized the opportunity, signaling her remaining officer to advance. Move! 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 Marcus scooped up Lumi, whose light was already fading, and sprinted for the lifts. Behind them, the security team laid down covering fire, forcing the Shade operatives to seek cover. They reached the lift just as the doors opened. Marcus practically threw Lumi inside, then turned back to see Chen taking a grazing hit to her shoulder. She grimaced, but continued firing as she backed toward them. Commander, Marcus called. Get Lumi out of here, she shouted back. We'll follow. The lift doors began to close. The last thing Marcus saw was Chen and her officer making a final stand against the regrouping Shade operatives. Inside the lift, Lumi had collapsed against the wall, skin dimmed to an alarming gray, tendrils limp. The child's eyes were half closed, breathing shallow. Lumi? Marcus knelt beside the small figure. Lumi, stay with me! Weakly, the child raised the datapad. Used too much energy. Need rest. That was incredible, Marcus said, still processing what he had witnessed. You disabled their weapon systems. Not weapons, their minds. Overwhelmed neural pathways. Temporary. Marcus stared in shock. You affected their minds? How is that possible? Lumi's response was slow, labored. What I was made for. Communication, connection, control. The implications were staggering. If Lumi could disable armed attackers with what appeared to be some form of directed empathic assault, what else might the child be capable of? And if the Shade Collective knew about this ability, no wonder they were so determined to capture Lumi. The lift arrived at the docking level with a soft chime. Marcus lifted Lumi into his arms. The child felt lighter than before, as if the energy expenditure had physically diminished them. Just hold on, he murmured. We're almost safe. The docking bay was in disarray, with station personnel rushing to evacuate civilians. Marcus spotted the Earth Alliance shuttle, a sleek, gunmetal gray craft with the blue Earth insignia on its hull. Two pilots were already conducting pre-flight checks, seemingly unaware of the chaos elsewhere on the station. Marcus approached quickly. "Emergency diplomatic evacuation," he announced, showing his credentials. "Commander Chen authorized immediate departure." The lead pilot frowned. "We haven't received official clearance, Ambassador. And where is the commander?" "She's holding off Shade Collective operatives who just tried to kill us," Marcus snapped. "This child is under direct Earth protection by order of Admiral Takahashi. If you want to explain to him why you left us stranded during an attack, be my guest." The pilot's resistance crumbled. "Of course, sir. Please board immediately." Once inside the shuttle, Marcus settled Lumi into a secure couch, fastening the safety harness around the child's small form. Lumi's condition hadn't improved. The skin remained a dull gray, and the tendrils hung limply. "Can you hear me, Lumi?" Marcus asked anxiously. A faint glow pulsed once in response. "We're going somewhere safe. Just rest now." As the shuttle prepared for departure, Marcus contacted the bridge. "We need to wait for Commander Chen and her officer. They should be right behind us." The pilot's voice was tense. "Sir, station security has implemented lockdown protocols. No one else is getting through those doors until the situation is contained." "Then we wait until it's contained," Marcus insisted. "Negative, Ambassador. We have orders to extract you and the Centurion subject immediately if any security threat materializes. Commander Chen would have given the same order." Marcus wanted to argue further, but a glance at Lumi's weakened state decided him. The child needed medical attention soon. "Very well," he conceded. "But report Commander Chen's situation to Earth Command immediately. She needs extraction." The shuttle detached from the station with a gentle shudder. Through the viewport, Marcus could see emergency lights flashing across multiple sections of X-227. What had begun as a simple diplomatic assignment had escalated into an interstellar incident, with Lumi at the center of it all. As they accelerated away from the station, Lumi stirred slightly. The datapad lit up with a faint message. "Where are we going?" "Earth," Marcus replied, hoping it was the right decision. "My home." The journey to Earth took 3 days, via hyperspace corridors. Throughout the trip, Lumi remained in a state of semi-consciousness, recovering slowly from the enormous energy expenditure. Dr. Voss, who had fortunately been evacuated on the same shuttle, monitored the child's condition. "The bioenergetic readings are stabilizing," she reported on the 3rd day. "But I've never seen anything like this. It's as if Lumi's entire cellular structure reconfigures to channel and release energy." "Will there be permanent damage?" Marcus asked, unable to hide his concern. "I don't believe so. The systems appear designed for this kind of output. Just not at the scale Lumi employed. With rest and proper nutrition, full recovery is expected." Marcus had spent most of the journey at Lumi's side, leaving only for brief consultations with Earth Command. Admiral Takahashi had been simultaneously impressed by the report of Lumi's abilities and disturbed by the Shade Collective's brazen attack. "This confirms our suspicions," the Admiral had said during their last communication. "The child is far more than a simple war orphan. The Collective wouldn't risk direct confrontation with Earth unless the potential gain was extraordinary. All the more reason to ensure Lumi's protection," Marcus had argued. "Not just physical security, but protection from exploitation by anyone." Takahashi's expression had been unreadable. "Your dedication to the child's welfare is noted, Ambassador. But remember, our primary responsibility is to Earth's interests." Now, as they approached Earth's orbital control zone, Marcus gazed down at the blue-white planet with mixed emotions. He had been born there, trained there, but had spent most of his adult life on diplomatic assignments across the sector. It wasn't really home anymore, just the power he represented. And what would it be for Lumi? A sanctuary? Or another laboratory? The child stirred, eyes opening fully for the first time in days. The tendrils extended weakly, and the skin began to pulse with more vibrant colors. "Welcome back," Marcus said softly. Lumi reached for the datapad. "Is that Earth?"
Yes, we're almost there.
Blue, like in lessons.
Even more beautiful in person, Marcus assured. And they have real seasons, real weather, not like the artificial environments on stations.
Lumi's tendrils quivered with what might have been excitement. "Will I feel rain?" The simple question caught Marcus off guard. Despite all the extraordinary abilities Lumi possessed, despite being created as a communication vessel for ancient alien signals, the child still had the curiosity and wonder of any young being. "Yes," he promised. "You'll feel rain, and sunshine, and wind. As soon as you're well enough." The Earth reception was both more and less than Marcus had expected. There was no formal diplomatic greeting, understandable given the circumstances, but neither was there the military presence he had feared. Instead, they were met by a small team of specialists, led by Dr. Nadia Okonjo, Earth's foremost xenobiologist.
"Ambassador Hale," she greeted him warmly. "And this must be Lumi. I've heard remarkable things about you, little one."
Lumi studied her cautiously, tendrils slightly extended, as if sensing her intentions. "Dr. Okonjo has prepared a special facility for your recovery," Marcus explained to the child. "Much nicer than our quarters on the station." Indeed. The facility turned out to be a secluded compound in what had once been the Pacific Northwest, a cluster of elegant buildings nestled among towering evergreens, with mountains visible in the distance. It had clearly been designed with both security and comfort in mind. "We call it the Haven," Okonjo explained as they approached. "Originally created for diplomatic guests with special environmental or security needs. It's entirely self-contained, with medical facilities, educational resources, and extensive grounds for recreation." "And security?" Marcus inquired quietly. "State-of-the-art, but discreet. Perimeter sensors, aerial surveillance, and a rapid response team on standby. Nothing visible that would make Lumi feel imprisoned." Their private quarters within the Haven were spacious and filled with natural light, a far cry from the utilitarian rooms on Station X-227. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked a small garden and forest beyond. The walls were adorned with subtle earth art, and the furnishings were clearly chosen for comfort rather than function. Lumi explored with growing excitement. Tendrils extended to touch everything. The bioluminescent patterns had returned to their normal vibrancy, shifting with the child's emotions. "I think this meets with approval," Marcus observed, smiling at Lumi's obvious delight. Okonjo nodded. "Good. We want Lumi to feel at home here. The trauma of the Centurion experiments, followed by the war, and now the Shade Collective's interest. It's a heavy burden for any being, let alone a child." "Speaking of the collective," Marcus lowered his voice. "Any word on Commander Chen and her team?" Okonjo's expression sobered. "They managed to repel the attack and secure the station. Commander Chen sustained moderate injuries, but is expected to make a full recovery. She's being transported to Earth for debriefing." "And the collective?" "Vanished as quickly as they appeared. But intelligence suggests they haven't abandoned their interest in Lumi. Quite the contrary. There are reports of increased activity in several sectors, possibly gathering resources for another attempt." Marcus frowned. What exactly do they think Lumi can do for them? Even if the child can communicate with these ancient ones, there's no evidence they still exist or would respond. "It may not be rational," Okonjo admitted. "The collective suffered horrifically under Centurion occupation. Some factions have developed an almost religious fixation on Centurion technology, particularly their biological innovations. If they believe Lumi is the key to powers beyond our understanding, they might view the child as some kind of messiah," Marcus concluded grimly. A demigod who can grant them the power they crave. Precisely. And such beliefs are often immune to rational argument. Their conversation was interrupted by a soft chime from across the room. Lumi had discovered the environmental controls and was experimenting with the lighting, creating patterns that complemented the child's own bioluminescence. "I should go," Okanjo said. "Let you both settle in. We'll begin gentle evaluation sessions tomorrow. If Lumi feels up to it, nothing invasive. I promise." After she left, Marcus joined Lumi by the window. The sun was setting, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple that reflected off the child's luminescent skin. "What do you think?" Marcus asked. "Better than the station?" Lumi nodded enthusiastically, then typed, "When can we go outside?" "Soon. Once Dr. Okanjo confirms you're fully recovered. Can feel the living things, trees, animals, many signals." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "You can sense the life forms from here?" Lumi's tendrils extended toward the window, different from space signals. Closer, warmer, like small lights everywhere. "Is it overwhelming?" "Good feeling. Not like ancient ones. Their signal cold, distant." Marcus hesitated, then asked the question that had been troubling him since their escape. "Lumi, what you did on the station, affecting the minds of those attackers. Have you always been able to do that?" The child's luminescence dimmed slightly. "Knew I could, never did before. Centurions wanted me to control, not attack." "Control what?" "Minds that hear the ancient ones. Prepare them." "Prepare them for what?" Lumi's tendrils curled inward. "Don't know. Never completed training, but felt wrong." Marcus considered this carefully. If the Centurions had been developing Lumi as some sort of psychic conduit or controller, the strategic implications were enormous. No wonder Earth Command was so interested. No wonder the Shade Collective was willing to risk interstellar incident to acquire the child. "You don't have to use those abilities if you don't want to," Marcus assured Lumi. "Not for me. Not for Dr. Okanjo. Not for anyone." Lumi looked up at him with those bottomless eyes. "But use them to protect you. Would do again." The simple declaration touched something deep in Marcus's heart. Despite everything, the traumatic creation, the war, the constant scrutiny and danger, Lumi had developed a genuine bond with him. A bond he realized he returned in full measure. "Thank you," he said softly. "But my job is to protect you, not the other way around." Lumi's skin pulsed with a warm golden light. "We protect each other. Family." The word hung between them, powerful and transformative. Marcus had never considered himself family material. His career had always come first. Relationships relegated to brief affairs between assignments. Yet here, with this extraordinary child from another species entirely, he felt something he'd never expected. The fierce, protective love of a parent. "Yes," he agreed, his voice thick with emotion. "Family." The next few weeks established a new routine. Each morning, Lumi would spend time with Dr. Okanjo and her team, undergoing gentle evaluations designed to understand the full scope of the child's abilities. The afternoons were reserved for education, not just academic subjects, but Earth customs, social interactions, and emotional regulation. Marcus divided his time between diplomatic duties, conducted remotely, and participating in Lumi's development. He took particular pride in introducing the child to Earth's natural wonders, first the Haven's gardens, then the surrounding forest, and finally excursions to nearby natural features. Lumi's first experience with rain became a moment of pure joy. The child had stood with tendrils fully extended, skin glowing with delight as the droplets fell. When a rainbow appeared afterward, Lumi had created a perfect light replica of it, adding layers of spectrum invisible to human eyes. "The child's progress is remarkable," Okanjo reported during one of their regular briefings. "The linguistic capabilities are off the charts. Lumi has mastered 7 Earth languages already, along with their writing systems. The mathematical and spatial reasoning abilities exceed our most advanced AI systems.
And the other abilities? Marcus asked carefully.
Okanjo's expression grew more serious. We've proceeded cautiously there, given the ethical considerations. But what we've observed is consistent with your report from the station incident. Lumi possesses a form of bioelectric field manipulation that can interface with neural systems, both organic and synthetic.
In plain language, Doctor,
Lumi can influence thoughts and perceptions, at least temporarily. The range seems limited to line of sight currently, but that may be due to self-imposed restrictions rather than actual limitations.
Marcus frowned.
Has Lumi demonstrated this ability during your sessions?
Only under carefully controlled conditions, with full consent from all participants.
The results were profound. One of my assistants described it as having her consciousness gently reorganized. No pain, no distress, just a temporary shift in perception.
And the connection to these ancient ones?
Okanjo hesitated.
That's more complex. We've detected unusual brainwave patterns during Lumi's sleep cycles, consistent with some form of long-range reception, but without knowing what we're looking for specifically.
You can't confirm or deny that something is actually out there, Marcus concluded. Precisely. But I will say this. If the Centurions engineered Lumi to communicate with another intelligence, they wouldn't have devoted such resources without compelling evidence that something was listening. The conversation left Marcus troubled. He found Lumi in the garden, creating intricate light patterns among the flowers, miniature constellations that hovered and danced in the air.
Beautiful, Marcus commented, sitting beside the child on a stone bench.
Lumi beamed with pride, making star maps, places I remember.
From the Centurion facility?
No, from before, when I was being made.
Marcus treaded carefully.
You have memories from before you were fully formed?
Lumi nodded. Centurions put star knowledge in me to help find signal source.
These stars, Marcus gestured to the light display. They're where the ancient ones are from?
Maybe, or where they went. Signal comes from there.
Marcus studied the unfamiliar configurations.
Have you shown these to Dr. Okanjo?
Lumi's tendrils curled inward slightly.
Not all.
Some feel private.
I understand. Some things are just for you.
The child's skin pulsed with warm colors. And you can see all. The trust implicit in that statement was both touching and terrifying. What responsibility did he bear, knowing things about Lumi that even Earth scientists didn't? Their moment of connection was interrupted by a security alert from Marcus's communicator.
Ambassador Hale, please report to the main facility immediately. Priority communication from Admiral Takahashi.
Marcus sighed.
I have to go, Lumi. Will you be all right here?
The child nodded, already returning to the star patterns.
In the Haven's Secure Communications Center, Admiral Takahashi's holographic image paced with barely contained agitation.
Ambassador, we have a situation developing. The Planetary Council has convened an emergency session regarding the Centurion Orphan Program.
Marcus frowned.
What orphan program? Lumi is the only confirmed survivor from the research facilities.
That's just it.
The Shade Collective has presented evidence to the Council suggesting there are others. They're demanding a full investigation into Earth's harboring of Centurion bioweapons and insisting that all survivors be placed in neutral custody for evaluation.
That's absurd, Marcus protested.
Lumi is a child, not a weapon, and there's no evidence of other survivors. Takahashi's expression was grim. The collective has managed to sway several key council members. They've invoked the Xiphos protocols, the post-war agreement on Centurion technology containment. Those protocols were meant for doomsday devices and planet killers, not orphaned children.
I know that, and you know that.
But the legal language is ambiguous enough to create problems. The Council has scheduled a formal hearing 3 days from now. You'll need to present Earth's position, with Lumi as a witness. Marcus felt a surge of protective anger.
Absolutely not. I won't subject Lumi to that kind of scrutiny and political manipulation.
We don't have a choice, Ambassador. If we refuse, we validate their accusations. Lumi must appear before the council to demonstrate that he's a sentient being, deserving of rights and protection, not a weapon to be contained or exploited. Marcus corrected automatically. Lumi identifies as they, not he. Takahashi waved off the correction. Whatever. The point is, this hearing will determine not just Lumi's fate, but potentially Earth's standing in the Alliance. If we're perceived as secretly harboring Centurion bioweapons— I understand the stakes, Marcus interrupted. But I want your assurance that Lumi's welfare remains the priority, no matter what political advantage might be gained. Takahashi's hesitation spoke volumes. Earth's security must come first, Ambassador. But within those parameters, I'll do everything possible to protect the child. It wasn't the unequivocal assurance Marcus had hoped for, but it was probably the best he would get. I'll prepare Lumi for the hearing, but I want full control over how they're presented and questioned. Granted, within council protocols, a transport will arrive tomorrow to bring you both to Geneva. Dr. Okanjo will accompany you to provide expert testimony if needed. After the communication ended, Marcus remained in the secure room, wrestling with his conflicting duties. As Earth's ambassador, he was obligated to advance his planet's interests in this complex political situation. As Lumi's guardian, his priority was protecting a vulnerable child from those who would use or harm them. For the first time in his diplomatic career, Marcus wasn't certain he could fulfill both roles simultaneously. When he finally returned to their quarters, he found Lumi waiting anxiously, tendrils twitching with nervous energy. "You heard?" Marcus asked, though he already knew the answer. Lumi nodded. "Council wants to see me. Judge me." "Not judge you." Marcus tried to reassure the child. "Just understand you better." "Not true. Felt your worry from across Haven? Shade Collective there?"
"Representatives will be, yes, but they won't be allowed to harm you or take you away. I promise."
Lumi's skin darkened with apprehension. "They don't want me. Want what I can do." "What do you mean?" "Control minds. Reach ancient ones. They think I am key to power." Marcus knelt beside the child. "Lumi, listen to me. No one can force you to use your abilities. Not the Collective, not Earth, not anyone. Do you understand? But if I don't help Earth, they might give me away." The child's fear cut Marcus to the core, partly because he couldn't honestly say it was unfounded. Earth politics were pragmatic, and if protecting Lumi became too costly diplomatically— "That won't happen," he said firmly. "Because I won't let it happen, if necessary. We'll find another solution, another place, together." Lumi's tendrils reached out tentatively, touching Marcus's face in the gesture that had become their unique form of affection. "Promise." "I promise. Family protects family, remember?" The child's luminescence brightened with hope. After a moment of consideration, Lumi typed, "Then I will face council. Show them truth." "What truth?" "Who I am. Not weapon. Not God. Just Lumi." The journey to Earth's diplomatic headquarters in Geneva was tense. Despite Dr. Okanjo's preparations, Lumi became increasingly withdrawn as they approached the imposing council complex, a massive structure of crystal and platinum that dominated the city skyline. "Remember," Marcus instructed, as they were escorted through the security checkpoints. "You don't have to answer any questions that make you uncomfortable. I'll be beside you the entire time." Lumi nodded, but the child's skin had dimmed to an anxious gray, and the tendrils remained tightly curled against their head. The datapad displayed a single word: afraid. "I know." Marcus squeezed the small hand gently. "But you're not alone." The council chamber was a vast amphitheater, with tiered seating arranged in a complete circle around a central platform. Representatives from over 100 worlds filled the seats, their diverse physiologies requiring various accommodations: atmosphere bubbles, gravity adjustments, temperature modifications. The hum of translation devices created a constant background murmur. High Counselor Thrain, who had assigned Lumi to Marcus's care months earlier, presided from an elevated podium. His expression was unreadable as Marcus and Lumi were escorted to the central platform. "Ambassador Hale," Thrain's voice echoed through the chamber. "We welcome you and your charge to these proceedings. The Council has convened to address concerns regarding the status and disposition of Centurion biological assets, following the conclusion of hostilities." "Counselor," Marcus responded formally, "I present Lumi, a child of Centurion origin currently under Earth's protection, and my personal guardianship. I must object to the characterization of any sentient being as an asset or biological weapon, regardless of their origins." A murmur rippled through the assembly. From a section of the chamber, draped in shadow-dampening fabrics, a figure rose, the Shade Collective's chief representative, whose features were obscured by a ceremonial hood. "The ambassador's objection is noted, but irrelevant," the hooded figure stated, voice modulated to a metallic flatness. "The being called Lumi was created in a Centurion military research facility using classified genetic engineering techniques. Its purpose was warfare, not personhood." "Speculation," Marcus countered. "The collective has presented no evidence of Lumi's intended purpose, only conjecture based on the facility's location." "Then, let the creation speak for itself," the Shade representative suggested with false reasonableness. "Let it demonstrate its capabilities before this council, so all may judge whether such power belongs in the hands of a single world, particularly one that so recently allied with the Centurion oppressors." Marcus felt a surge of protective anger. "Lumi is not a spectacle to be paraded for your amusement or political agenda. They are a child who has survived unimaginable trauma and deserves the same rights and protections as any sentient being." High Counselor Thrain raised a hand for silence. "The Council recognizes both positions. Ambassador Hale, while we respect your protective instincts, the gravity of these allegations requires substantive examination. If Lumi possesses capabilities that could threaten interstellar peace, this body must be informed." Marcus was about to object further when he felt a gentle tug at his sleeve. Lumi had stepped forward, tendrils slightly extended in what he had come to recognize as determination. The child held up the datapad. "I will speak." "Are you certain?" Marcus whispered. Lumi nodded, skin pulsing with a steady, resolute light. "Very well," Marcus announced. "Lumi has agreed to address the Council, but on their own terms. I request that all parties show appropriate respect for a child who has already endured more than most adults in this chamber." Thrain inclined his head. "Granted. The Council will hear Lumi directly." A hush fell over the assembly as Lumi stepped to the center of the platform. For a moment, the child simply stood there, tendrils gently waving, skin shifting through patterns of luminescence that seemed to correspond to deep thought or concentration. Then, to everyone's astonishment, Lumi set aside the datapad, the tendrils extended fully, and the child's entire body began to glow with increasing intensity. A soft humming filled the chamber as points of light detached from Lumi's skin, floating upward to form a three-dimensional display that expanded until it filled the central space above the platform. The display resolved into a vivid representation of the Centurion research facility: sterile labs, medical equipment, scientists in protective gear. Then it shifted to show Lumi as a younger child, undergoing painful procedures, connected to machines that pulsed with unknown energies. The images were so realistic, so emotionally charged, that many council members visibly recoiled. "Remarkable," someone whispered. "Complete memory projection." The display continued, showing the facility under attack, scientists fleeing, fires consuming laboratories, a tiny Lumi hiding in a maintenance shaft as explosions rocked the structure. Then darkness, fear, isolation, emotions conveyed not just visually, but empathically, as waves of feeling washed over the entire council chamber. Marcus realized with awe that Lumi wasn't just showing memories. The child was allowing the council to experience them directly, to feel what Lumi had felt. The display shifted again, now showing Marcus's arrival at Station X-227, their first tentative interactions, the growing trust and bond between them, scenes of learning, healing, moments of joy amid the ongoing challenges. And, throughout it all, a constant background presence, a distant signal, a calling from deep space that Lumi both sought and feared. Finally, the display showed the attack on the station, but from Lumi's perspective, the terror, the desperate need to protect Marcus, the instinctive release of power that had disabled the Shade operatives. As the light display faded, Lumi stood in the center of the platform, small and vulnerable yet somehow radiant with dignity. The child retrieved the datapad and typed a message that appeared on the chamber's main screens. I was made to hear the Ancient Ones, to connect minds across stars, not to harm, not to control. The Centurions are gone. I remain. I am not a weapon. I am a child learning to be more. The silence that followed was profound. Even the Shade representative seemed momentarily speechless. High Counselor Thrain was the first to recover. A most illuminating presentation. The Council thanks Lumi for this extraordinary testimony. The Shade representative stepped forward, hood trembling slightly. Illuminating indeed, and absolutely confirming our concerns. You have all witnessed the creature's power to project thoughts directly into your minds. What defense exists against such intrusion? What prevents this being from manipulating our very perceptions of reality? Murmurs of concern rippled through the assembly. Furthermore, the Shade representative continued, gaining momentum. The creature itself confirmed communication with these Ancient Ones, unknown entities from deep space. If the Centurions created this being to contact alien intelligences beyond our knowledge, the security implications are staggering. Before Marcus could respond, another figure rose from the council seats. A tall, willowy being with translucent skin that revealed pulsing internal structures. Ambassador Jolith of the Empathic Confederacy, known for their strict ethical stance on psychic abilities. The Shade Collective speaks from fear rather than wisdom. Jolith's melodious voice cut through the rising tension. My people have lived with empathic and telepathic abilities for millennia. We recognize in this child not a weapon, but a gift. A bridge between consciousnesses that could foster understanding where words alone fail. Easy for the empaths to say, countered a gravelly voice from another section. Their entire society is built on mutual mental connection. Most of us prefer our thoughts to remain private. The chamber erupted into heated debate, representatives shouting over one another as factions quickly formed. Marcus placed a protective arm around Lumi, who was trembling slightly from the exertion of the display and the emotional backlash of the council's reaction. You did wonderfully, he assured the child. No matter what they decide, you showed them the truth. Lumi's skin had dimmed with exhaustion, but the tendrils reached out to touch Marcus's hand in gratitude. High Counselor Thrain struggled to restore order, his amplified voice competing with the cacophony of argument. The council will have order. This is not a marketplace brawl. As the chaos continued, Marcus noticed the Shade representative slip away from their designated area, moving toward a side entrance where several dark-clad figures had appeared. A sense of foreboding washed over him. Something's wrong, he muttered to Dr. Okonjo, who had joined them on the platform. The collective is making some kind of move. Before Okonjo could respond, the chamber's lights suddenly flickered and died, plunging the assembly into darkness. Emergency systems activated seconds later, bathing the space in dim red illumination. "Security breach!" Thrain's voice boomed. "All representatives remain in your seats. Security protocols are active." But it was too late for caution. The side doors burst open, and armed figures in Shade Collective armor poured into the chamber. Unlike the operatives who had attacked on Station X-227, these wore ceremonial garb over their tactical equipment, robes decorated with glowing symbols that Marcus recognized with horror as stylized representations of Lumi. "Behold the Herald of the Ancient Ones," the lead figure proclaimed, voice echoing through amplification systems that had somehow remained functional. "The divine vessel, who will lead the faithful to power beyond mortal comprehension." "They're treating Lumi like some kind of deity," Okanjo whispered in shock. "Not a deity," Marcus corrected grimly. "A tool, a key to whatever power they believe the Ancient Ones possess." The Shade Zealots advanced toward the central platform, weapons raised but not yet firing. Council security forces moved to intercept them, creating a tense standoff. "Surrender the vessel," the Shade leader demanded. "The time of revelation is at hand. The Ancient Ones have waited millennia for their herald to mature. We will not allow Earth to hoard this cosmic gift." Marcus positioned himself firmly between the advancing zealots and Lumi. "This has gone far enough. Lumi is a child under my protection and Earth's sovereignty. Any attempt to seize them will constitute an act of war against not just Earth, but the entire Council." "War?" the Shade leader laughed. "We offer transcendence. The Ancient Ones will raise up those who deliver their herald and cast down those who stand in the way of cosmic awakening." The rhetoric was becoming increasingly unhinged, but the weapons in the Zealots' hands were all too real. Council security forces were outnumbered, and many representatives were fleeing the chamber in panic. "Marcus," Dr. Okanjo murmured urgently, "we need to get Lumi out of here. Is there a diplomatic exit route?" Before he could answer, Lumi stepped forward, moving past Marcus's protective stance. The child's tendrils were fully extended, and the skin was beginning to glow with the same intense light they had witnessed during the station attack. "Lumi, no!" Marcus reached for the child. "You don't have to do this!" But Lumi was beyond hearing. The glow intensified until the child was a blazing figure of pure light. The tendrils extended impossibly, reaching outward toward both the Shade Zealots and the Council representatives who remained in the chamber. Then, with a sound like a crystalline chime magnified 1,000-fold, Lumi released a pulse of energy that swept through the entire chamber. Unlike the attack on the station, this pulse didn't disable or harm. Instead, as it touched each being, it created a momentary but profound connection, a bridge between minds that transcended language, species, and ideology. For a breathtaking instant, everyone in the chamber experienced each other's perspectives, fears, hopes, and beliefs. The Shade Zealots felt the terror of a council member facing what seemed like religious fanaticism, armed with military hardware. Council representatives experienced the generations of suffering the Shade Collective had endured under Centurion occupation. And everyone, regardless of faction, glimpsed what Lumi perceived, the distant, patient signal of intelligences so ancient and alien that their very existence challenged the foundations of known science. As the pulse faded, Lumi collapsed to the platform floor, completely drained. The chamber remained in stunned silence, weapons lowered, arguments forgotten in the wake of shared consciousness. The Shade Leader was the first to recover, removing their ceremonial helmet to reveal a face etched with conflicting emotions. "The vessel showed me, that we're all afraid," Marcus finished, kneeling beside Lumi's unconscious form, checking for vital signs. "The collective fears being victimized again. Earth fears losing strategic advantage. The Council fears destabilization. And Lumi fears being used as a weapon or worshipped as a god when all they want is to be a child." The leader stared at Marcus, then at Lumi, Religious fervor giving way to something more complex. Doubt, perhaps, or the first glimmerings of understanding. "The Ancient Ones," they said, voice no longer amplified. "They're real. I felt them through the child's awareness." "Yes," Marcus acknowledged. "But they're not gods waiting for worship or power waiting to be seized. There's something else entirely, something we're not ready to comprehend. And Lumi is not their herald or vessel. Just a child created with an ability they never asked for." High Counselor Thrain approached cautiously, his own expression transformed by the experience. "What we have witnessed here, there are no protocols for this, no diplomatic precedents. Then perhaps it's time to create new ones," Marcus suggested, gathering Lumi's limp form in his arms. "Beginning with the recognition that Lumi deserves protection, not because of their abilities or strategic value, but because they are a sentient being with rights that transcend politics." Thrain considered this, then nodded slowly. "A valid starting point. The Council will need time to process what has occurred here today, until formal decisions can be reached. I propose that Lumi remain under Earth's protection, with Ambassador Hale as guardian, but with regular monitoring by a Council-appointed observer." "And the Shade Collective?" Marcus asked, glancing at the now subdued zealots. "Will withdraw its forces immediately," the Shade leader stated, though whether from genuine change of heart or tactical necessity remained unclear. "But we maintain our interest in the Ancient Ones and what they represent." "As do we all," Thrain acknowledged. "But through diplomatic channels, research cooperation, and mutual respect, not armed incursion or religious fervor." As Council security began restoring order and medical teams attended to those affected by the chaos, Marcus carried Lumi from the chamber. The child's skin was barely glowing, tendrils limp, breathing shallow. "Will they recover?" he asked Dr. Okonjo anxiously, as they rushed toward the medical wing. "I believe so," she replied, though her expression was troubled. "But that level of energy expenditure, that degree of psychic connection, it's far beyond anything we've observed before. Lumi pushed well past their established limits." "For us," Marcus said softly, "to protect everyone, not just me this time." "A remarkable child," Okonjo agreed, "in every sense of the word. The medical facilities within the Council complex were state-of-the-art, equipped to handle the diverse physiologies of hundreds of species. Even so, Lumi's unique biology presented challenges. The medical team, led by a Centaurian specialist, worked through the night to stabilize the child's condition. Marcus refused to leave Lumi's side, maintaining a vigil that stretched into early morning. When the child finally stirred, skin gradually brightening from dull gray to a soft blue glow, he felt a relief so profound it was almost painful. "Welcome back," he whispered as Lumi's eyes opened slowly. The tendrils extended weakly, reaching for the datapad that Marcus had kept nearby. With evident effort, Lumi typed, "Did it work?" "Yes," Marcus assured. "You showed them all something they needed to see. The Council is reconsidering everything. The Shade Zealots have withdrawn. You created understanding where there was only fear and suspicion." Lumi's skin pulsed with satisfaction, though the child remained too weak to maintain the luminescence for long. "Good. Tired now?" "Rest," Marcus encouraged. "You've earned it." As Lumi drifted back to sleep, Marcus was joined by Admiral Takahashi, who had arrived from Earth Command during the night. The Admiral studied the sleeping child with an expression that mingled awe and calculation. "Remarkable display in the Council chamber," Takahashi said quietly. "Earth intelligence is still assessing the strategic implications." Marcus felt a flare of irritation. "With respect, Admiral, perhaps we could focus on Lumi's recovery before worrying about strategic implications." Takahashi raised an eyebrow. "Your attachment to the child is admirable, Ambassador, but we must be realistic. What Lumi demonstrated today changes everything. The ability to create instant, profound empathic connections across species barriers? The confirmed existence of these ancient ones. Whatever they may be, these are developments with far-reaching consequences. Which is precisely why Lumi needs protection, not exploitation, Marcus insisted. They're still a child, still learning to control these abilities and understand their own nature. And Earth is committed to providing that protection, Takahashi assured him. But we must also prepare for what comes next. The Shade Collective may have withdrawn temporarily, but their interest won't fade. Other powers will inevitably learn of Lumi's abilities and seek to acquire them. And these ancient ones, if they truly exist, if they're truly attempting to communicate, one crisis at a time. Admiral, Marcus interrupted. For now, Lumi needs rest and stability. Political machinations can wait. Takahashi studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Very well. I've arranged for a secure transport back to the Haven once the medical team clears Lumi for travel. Earth Command has authorized enhanced security measures for the facility. Discreet, but substantial. Thank you, Marcus said, genuine gratitude tempering his earlier irritation. After Takahashi departed, Marcus returned his attention to Lumi. The child slept peacefully now, the tendrils occasionally twitching, as if in response to dreams. What did a being like Lumi dream about? Stars and distant signals? The traumatic memories of their creation? Or perhaps simpler things? The feeling of rain, the warmth of sunlight, the security of having someone who cared? 3 days later, they returned to the Haven. Lumi had recovered enough to walk, though the child tired easily, and the bioluminescent patterns remained subdued. The facility had been enhanced with additional security measures, as Takahashi had promised. Though most were integrated so smoothly, they were barely noticeable. Dr. Okonjo welcomed them back with evident relief. The entire staff has been concerned, she admitted. We've grown quite attached to our special resident. Lumi has that effect on people, Marcus observed with a small smile. The following weeks brought a gradual return to their established routine, though with some significant changes. The council had appointed an observer as promised, a serene Arcturian diplomat named Vexlor, who maintained a respectful distance while fulfilling his monitoring duties. The Shade Collective had gone unusually quiet, their zealots apparently retreating to process the revelations Lumi had shared. Most importantly, Lumi was healing, not just from the physical exhaustion of the council chamber display, but from deeper traumas. The child spent more time outdoors, exploring the Haven's extensive grounds with growing confidence. The bioluminescent patterns became more varied, more expressive, suggesting emotional development and greater self-awareness. One evening, as they sat watching the sunset from a hilltop overlooking the compound, Lumi presented Marcus with an unexpected message on the datapad. Want to learn control? Control of what? Marcus asked, though he suspected he knew. My abilities, connecting minds, showing truth, want to use right way. Marcus considered carefully before responding. That seems wise, but it should be your choice how and when to use your gifts. Not Earth's, not the Council's, and certainly not the Shade Collective's. Lumi's tendrils waved in what had become their version of emphatic agreement. My choice, my responsibility, need help learning. Dr. Okonjo might have some ideas, Marcus suggested. Perhaps even Ambassador Jolith from the Empathic Confederacy. They seem to understand your abilities better than most. Good. Also need understand Ancient Ones. What they want. Why they call. This was trickier territory. The Ancient Ones remained a mystery. Possibly a threat. Possibly an opportunity. Certainly a diplomatic complication. One step at a time, Marcus advised. First, learn to master your existing abilities. Then, we can consider exploring the signal further. Lumi seemed satisfied with this approach. As darkness fell, the child's natural luminescence created a gentle glow around them, complementing the emerging stars above. Marcus? Yes? Am I still family? The question caught him off guard. Of course you are. Why would you ask that? Everything changed. Council, shade people, ancient ones. Thought maybe too complicated now. Marcus felt a surge of protective love. Nothing is too complicated for family, Lumi. We figure it out together, no matter what changes or challenges come our way. The child's skin brightened with joy, and the tendrils reached out to touch Marcus's face in their special gesture of affection. In that moment, the diplomatic crises, the political machinations, the cosmic mysteries, all of it seemed secondary to this simple truth. Somewhere along this unexpected journey, they had truly become family. Later that night, as Lumi slept peacefully in their room, Marcus stood at the window gazing at the stars. Somewhere out there were the Ancient Ones, entities so advanced or alien that even the Centurions had only managed to detect their signals, not comprehend them. Somewhere out there were answers to questions about Lumi's purpose and potential. But here, on Earth, was something more immediate and perhaps more important, a child who needed guidance, protection, and love. A child who, despite being created as a tool for communication with cosmic entities, wanted most of all to be part of a family. Marcus had entered diplomatic service to help shape humanity's place among the stars. He had never imagined that his most significant contribution might be raising a single, extraordinary child who bridged worlds in ways no treaty or alliance ever could. As if sensing his thoughts, Lumi stirred in sleep, the bioluminescent patterns shifting to a warm, peaceful glow. Marcus smiled. Whatever challenges tomorrow brought, political, cosmic, or personal, they would face them together. Not as ambassador and ward, not as human and alien, but as family. The signal from the Ancient Ones would wait. The politics of the Council would evolve. The beliefs of the Shade Collective would transform. But this bond, unexpected, unprecedented, unbreakable, this was the true miracle that had emerged from the ashes of war. Marcus turned from the window and settled into the chair beside Lumi's bed, prepared to watch over the child through the night. Outside, stars wheeled across the sky, some perhaps harboring intelligences beyond human comprehension. Inside, in the soft glow of Lumi's peaceful sleep, Marcus found a different kind of cosmic wonder, the simple, profound connection between two beings who had found each other across the vast distances of species and experience. "Good night, Lumi," he whispered. "Tomorrow is a new day, for both of us." The child's tendrils twitched slightly in sleep, as if in acknowledgement. The bioluminescent patterns pulsed once, twice, then settled into a steady, contented rhythm, like a heartbeat, like a promise. Family, home, together. Some things transcended even the oldest signals from the stars.